Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Carry On Friends, the Caribbean American podcast. I am Carrie Ann, and in this episode, my guest and I talk about personal branding generally, but specifically personal branding as an introvert and how, as an introvert, personal branding is important. And regardless if you're an introvert, extrovert, ambivert, something-vert, in this post-COVID world, personal branding is critical. But before we get into the topic, I want to give a big, huge shout out to Miss Ramdini in Canada, representing for my Trini Massive, for leaving the show a 5-star rating and a review. She said every episode she enjoys learning and gaining new perspectives while also learning about her fellow Caribbean community. Miss Ramdini, thank you for listening and being a part of the Carry On Friends community. I appreciate you. And now it's time for the Breadfruit Minute. So Breadfruit Media is my podcast production company, and the Breadfruit Minute is this quick segment where I share what's coming up on other shows in the Breadfruit Media family. And in this installment of the Breadfruit Minute, I want you to check out the Style and Vibes podcast interview with Ronnie Tomlinson, the multi-hyphenated Caribbean girl boss who is currently publicist for Buju Banton, Sean Paul, Taurus Riley, as well as Ghetto Youths International, which is the label for Damien, Steven, and Julian Marley. So in that episode, Michaela and Ronnie talk about dancehall and reggae not being dead, but evolving. Click the link in the show notes to check out that episode. All right, so that's it for the Breadfruit Minute. And speaking of evolving, let's get into our main topic, personal branding as an introvert. Gizelle, welcome to Carry On Friends. How are you today?
I am super psyched and excited to be on, Carrie Ann. I love your show and I love you and your energy. So it's really an honor to be here.
Well, I feel so good. Thank you so much for sharing that, Lord. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
I'm really excited about this conversation, But before we kind of give it away, why don't you tell the community of friends a little bit about who you are, Caribbean country you represent, and all that good stuff?
Who is Gizelle? Okay, well, Gizelle is a communication strategist. I live in the beautiful island of Jamaica. I'm a lover of stories, especially stories that help push people to the forefront, especially if you're behind the scenes people. I am the founder of Digital Boss Babe podcast, which is going through an evolution right now into something else. I'm a published writer. I've written for a couple of places, Thrive Global, Caribbean Posh Magazine, Richard Branson's Virgin.com, and also recently my latest book, which is called Master Your Message Like a Boss Babe. But more importantly, I am a proud introvert and a Jesus-loving Netflix junkie. That's me in a nutshell.
Listen, so we have a couple of things in common. Let's run them down. Jamaican, check.
Yeah.
Introvert, check. Jesus loving, check. Netflix loving, check. And we're both moms.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So that's kind of the topic we're going to talk about today, everyone. Being an introvert. And people always are surprised when I say that because they're like, wait, how did Twa know an introvert and have podcasts? You are a strategist for this, and you're right this, and you're all of that. So really, what is introvert? Because maybe that's what we probably need to define first, and then what does it mean to be an introvert?
Okay, so an introvert in a nutshell is somebody who gets energized by their own inner world, their own thoughts, and their own solitude. So, you know that friend that you have that you keep inviting them out? And, and at the last minute, say, boy, I'm busy. And that busy could basically mean watching the cat or watching Netflix. That friend is probably an introvert.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions about being an introvert. And the typical one is that you're a shy weirdo who hates people. I mean, I'm a weirdo, but it's not because I'm an introvert.
I I agree with you. Sometimes I feel like I'm a dork. Like I just feel sometimes I can be socially awkward,
Yeah.
but it's because I spend so much time in my own head
Yeah.
that when I kind of come to, I'm like, wait, what? What's happening?
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, this is where we are.
Yeah.
But it's like you said, it's not about being shy.
Mm-hmm.
The part that I love is like we get energy from being with our own thoughts and
Exactly.
being, like internal. We're having this, we're thinking through. For me, I'm a process person. I think through processes and I'm like going through all these things. And in my mind, my husband to the point will look at me and say, what are you thinking? Because he just sees the eyes moving. So that's an introvert, a person who is not necessarily shy or weird. It's just that they get energy from being by themselves, along with their thoughts.
Exactly. And one of the reasons why I say I'm a proud introvert is because for many, many years, I literally wondered if something was wrong with me. Because I love, I'm an insomniac, right? And I thought it was just because I just wanted to stay up watching television and getting some other work done. But I realized, learning more about my introverted nature, that's my time for decompression. Everybody's sleeping. So, being an introvert, our brains are wired differently. So whereas an extrovert will get stimulated and excited from like intense conversation and having people around them all the time, when you're an introvert, it's like information overload. It's too much going on and you're so overly sensitive to all of the external stimulus. It's like, okay, I need like a break. I need to relax.
You are speaking my language. Listen, Carry On Friends family, I've said it before and I'll probably gloss over it, but when introverts unite, we're kind of giving you a peek into our inner workings, because I used to say, you know what, this is too much sensory overload for me. Like I just need to back away, because what happens and I've said it, even after recording this podcast episode that we're going to do, I need like a couple minutes to just like decompress, like go over the corner and don't say a thing, just kind of be by myself. And so when you said that, it was just like, yes, because we're so process driven in our thoughts that when too much stimuli is coming at us, we can't we're just like, wait, we can't process as quickly. And so for us, it feels like, wait, this is too much. I need to go one side and sort out myself.
Exactly.
So I love that you say that. So now that we understand that, we like our alone times, and our alone times is not because we don't like people. We just need to untangle all the thoughts that we've gotten throughout the day. How does an introvert work in communications? How does the introvert?
It's crazy, right?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if you've encountered this as well, but a lot of introverts are in communications. There's so many of us. You think it'd be the extrovert. And I think it's because we're so process oriented and we're detail oriented. So, and outside of that as well, because communication, at least I can, speaking from experience, it took me a while, as much as I love people to, I would say, communicate effectively. Okay, yes, I can get you millions of views, literally, on your brand, your business, and all of your press stuff. But interpersonal communication, that was something that I kind of had to study and be open and free with myself to just let it out there, right? So I think it's that interest in learning how people think and learning how people communicate, which is why most introverts, at least the ones I've encountered, end up in communications. Like, okay, this is interesting. How do I break this down? How can I learn more?
I feel like you stepped into my mind. Yes, my other introvert creative collaborator, Rachel, out there is listening, and she's going to be like, there's more of us out here.
Not alone.
Yes. All right. So as I mentioned before we started recording, I knew this was going to be the topic we spoke
Yeah.
about because as introverts, we like being behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
So, let's take, for instance, we're both podcasters and everybody's doing the most with these video podcasts.
Yeah.
And your girl ear is like, me don't know about this. And then everybody's like, but you're so good at it. I said, you know how long it took me just to get into a place to record a video?
Yeah.
It is a lot of like mental work just to get there. So tell me about how an introvert can manage their personal brand, because we all have a personal brand. And so as an introvert, forget me as a podcaster, right?
Mm-hmm.
But someone who's also listening who I can't see, but I know they're like, yes, finally introverts unite, or Introverts Anonymous, whatever.
We should start a support
group. Yeah, no, actually that's the word I prefer. Introvert support group, is listening and they're like, yes, finally, but they don't have a podcast. They're not an expert in anything. They're just like, I just go to work. I go to church. I live my life. What personal brand I need as an introvert? What are you talking about? So talk to us about that.
Yeah. So I believe in building a magnetic personal brand, right? Call it being an introvert, call it being lazy, but I'm not going to be out there all the time. Just, you phrase it so eloquently, like doing the most. I'm not going to be doing video all the time. I'm not going to be living on social media. I'm not going to be reaching out to people and doing all of this. I would rather invest my time in creating, speaking strictly in the online sense, creating content, that will give me bang for my buck, right? So let's say you have your expertise, right? How can I get myself out there without constantly creating content? One way is to use OPP. That's like other people's platforms or other people's podcasts, however you want to put it. So instead of me created this amazing blog post with this wealth of knowledge and maybe a couple of people see it, why not share that with somebody else's platform, right? Like, I'm an introvert and you gave me the honor to share this experience with you on your platform. You have an amazing community. So what other introverts, what they can do, they can find other platforms that align with their mission and who they are and how they want to expose themselves, reach out to them and build relationships and offer them the opportunity or the avenue to share their expertise or whatever else they want to share, because honestly, I kind of do like to focus on people's expertise for the reason being, especially since COVID hit, I believe that you should be able to make yourself marketable outside of your regular 9 to 5. You don't necessarily need to have your own business, but you do need to know your value and you need to be able to share that with the world. So one good way of doing that, other people's platforms. And another great avenue an introvert can become magnetic and attract people to them is what I call the power platform. And that can be anything. For me, for a long time, it was through Digital Boss Babe. It was through my podcast because I was sharing content, not necessarily even my expertise, because most of the times I would interview amazing women. But the fact that I'm constantly putting stuff out there and like my name is attached to it, it acted again like a magnet. I kept attracting different opportunities to me, whether that be writing opportunities, speaking opportunities, all of that. Now, your power platform doesn't need to be a podcast. It could be a blog. It could just be you focusing on constantly putting out content on your social media. And when I mean constantly, I mean it doesn't have to be every day, but it has to be meaningful and valuable content. So how it normally happens for me, at least, I tend to get like these divine downloads and, I'll get some bit of inspiration and I'll write it down and I'll just share it online. And instead of overthinking it, which is something that us introverts like to do, obviously we're internal in our brain.
Oh my goodness.
I just put it out there because at the end of the day, nobody is going to care, for example, if you misspelled one word. I've misspelled my name actually once. The important part of it is the message of the piece of content. So as soon as you feel the urge to share it out to the world. Now, personal branding, especially as an introvert, doesn't necessarily mean online stuff too. It could just be interpersonal communication, right? And you have to understand that how you're interacting with people every day, that is, you're sharing a narrative of your brand. And you have to think, what do you want people to think when they think about Carrie Ann? What do you want people to think when they think about Gizelle? Do you want them to know that you have this amazing skill in marketing, even though you work in accounts? How are people going to know that? The only way they're going to know that is unless you engage with people, either with regular conversation and talk to them about it, or find those opportunities to share your input. As an introvert, sometimes in meetings, it's like, oh my God, a lot of people are talking. This is like too much. This meeting could have been 15 minutes. It didn't need to be an hour, but it's very important that no matter what, you share something of yourself. You add value to that conversation in some way, because at the end of the day, if people don't know what you're about, they don't know your values, they don't know what you can do, you can never go to that next level, because they don't know. And who's to blame? So when you see this new girl, Sharon, coming in, she was hired as a consultant and she's doing marketing, and you're great at marketing, who are you going to blame? You can't blame Sharon. Sharon put herself out there. They know about Sharon. They don't know anything about you and your skills because you never shared it with anybody. So those are some ways that you can start to put yourself out there and be magnetic. And another way, which I love so much, and you don't need to be an entrepreneur to do it, is to get testimonials. Now, as long as you work, right, or have worked at some point, which I'm sure people listening to the show have, you've added value to a company, you've added value to another person. So career-wise, you can reach out to a former employer, former supervisor, even your colleagues. You can ask them to give you a testimonial. And a great way that you can make it easier for them, because sometimes they're busy, you can write it yourself and say, hey, I'd love for you to give me a testimonial. Here's something that I've put together. You can obviously edit it or not use it as you see fit, but I'm just making your life easy for you because I know you're going to say yes. Half the time they don't edit it anyway because they're busy people. And if you're worth your salt and you've been amazing anyway, they have no problem to say yes and share it. And that's content that you can share on your social media. That's something that they can even leave on your LinkedIn page in the recommendation section. And you can take screenshots and put it on your website if you're an entrepreneur. There's so many avenues for this. You can also, even if you're an entrepreneur, you can speak to colleagues within your industry, and you can do like a swap. Like I can give some of your people my services for free or complimentary, because I don't like the word free. And we can do this swap, and in exchange, we give each other an honest testimonial. Because again, being magnetic, especially as an introvert, and building a magnetic personal brand as an introvert, you want to invest your time in creating content and in building relationships that have real value and can attract a lot of the good opportunities for you. And you can't really do that, if going back to the blog post I mentioned earlier, if you write a blog post on your website and only 15 people see it, and that includes your mom, dad, grandpa, whatever. So those are some ways.
No, I love what you've said. And I mean, even LinkedIn, which is for those who are not an entrepreneur or
Mm-hmm.
they have a career, like you said, and I want to focus on that, especially during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
COVID has really highlighted the importance of having multiple streams of revenue, a side hustle, in addition to a full-time job. And if you
Exactly.
don't have a blog and have no interest in starting a blog or a podcast, LinkedIn is a very great way to showcase your expertise. Like you said, you could get your testimonials on there by asking recommendations from former
Exactly.
colleagues. You could write long form blog posts because they have a separate post section in addition to status updates, right?
Yes.
So you have all these other ways on LinkedIn to showcase. So let's say, to your point, you're in accounting, but you like marketing. You can start sharing, what I started to do. I haven't gone on LinkedIn in a long time. Well, I go in, but not as to engage as much as this, but I did use this strategy. I would share articles that I liked and kind of
Mm-hmm.
gave a summary, great article about XYZ, blah, blah, blah. Because it shows that one, you read the article, you have some thoughts on the article. And if your colleagues in the office are paying attention, or recruiters who are lurking on LinkedIn, which is what they do, they will see this. And again, I think as an introvert, and I'll be honest, the thing about doing these posts is that you're just doing it out into the open and no one may like it or see it, but you have to do it anyway, right? Because if we overthink it and keep it in our mind, nobody else won't know that we've thought it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I love about using LinkedIn. And it's the same for other people's platforms, right? For Carry On Friends, people have reached out and be like, hey, I have this. I'm like, sure, you could write an article and post it on the website, because again, they weren't interested in creating their own platform. They just had something to say and it felt like it resonated, and it helps them have SEO traction when people search for them, because that's what recruiters do now, search and all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something I want to latch onto, because I just did an interview with a former CEO of a few large North American companies. And we talk about culturally how we've been told to just go work, hold on your head, do your job, and how that doesn't benefit us at all.
No.
At all. But the struggle is that we don't know how, because culturally and for years, we were never taught how to. Add the introvertness on top of that. I know we are introvert, support group, but we're talking to everyone, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, or they have an in-between one where they have out there. No,
Ambivert.
no. Ambivert. Yes, that one. I'm like,
I don't get it either.
So wherever you fall on the spectrum, how do you begin to engage within the workforce? Because I'm sure you have a ton of resources for people who want to engage from an entrepreneurship standpoint, but let's kind of dial down to those who are in the office and they need to create a personal brand, not just internally for work, but you need it to be external because you go look a new job.
Exactly.
Right? And you need the recruiters to see that I need to know something about this person. So tell me a little bit about some of those strategies that you can use to give yourself some visibility in work, but it's also helpful for when you are ready to find a new job and recruiters and everyone else is looking.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's very important when opportunities come up for speaking that you raise your hand and say, oh yeah, you need somebody to be a panelist on this panel discussion. Okay, yeah, I'll do it. I mean, inside you're probably freaking out. But that is a great way, to get your feet wet and learn as much as possible and to let people see you. So raise your hand for these opportunities. And it may come across as maybe difficult to some people, whether you're introvert or whoever you are, to share who you are. But it's important to know that you have value. And if you didn't have value, people wouldn't hire you to work anyway. So,
Very true.
Even if that value is beyond what your job description is, holding regular conversations with people, around the lunchroom and around coffee and talking about your plans and your dreams. When people know what your dreams are, what you aspire to do, most of the time people are going to help you. A lot of the times I think we're shy to share that. Maybe we'll be judged, or maybe they'll take our idea or whatever, stuff like that. Well, if you're worried about people taking your idea, well, your idea is not that original. Sorry to say. There's like 8 billion people in the world. Somebody else has had that idea. And you got to kind of move yourself beyond that fact and share anyway. And let's step out of the informal conversation. Let's say you want to talk about X. You want to build yourself to that next level. Have a lunch and learn with your team. You can host it yourself. You don't need to wait on anybody to do it. The other great way of doing that, even within your job, you can reach out to other corporations, other businesses, and say, hey, I would love to share my expertise and have a workshop, complimentary workshop for your team. Are you, open to this idea? Most of the times, other organizations are going to be open to that idea because it's adding value onto their team and they don't got to pay for it. So not only are you extending your reach with the other people in that organization, the heads of the organization, the ones who you spoke to in the first place, you're going to be top of mind with them because they know, oh, okay, this person does this. Let's call them back, or let's hire them for this, And I can hear some people right now saying, oh, I don't know if I should do this because my current job not going to want me to do this. So you can either speak to your boss about it. If you feel, that strongly about it, maybe they'll have an issue with it. And ask them if they're comfortable with it. If they're not comfortable with it, you need to look to go somewhere else, to be honest with you. Because we don't live in an age right now where exclusion and holding people back is the thing. So that's not going to work. But besides from that, even if you don't say anything to them, and I'm probably going to get in some hot water with some people for saying this, legally, you're not doing anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with you reaching out to other people and you work for someplace else and sharing your expertise. It's your expertise. The company you work for doesn't own your expertise. They hire you to do a specific job. You're doing their job. You can still share it with other companies. So that's something that you can do.
Well, and if we're going to be technical, if you're on a panel outside of your company, I've been on panels outside my company with people from other companies. You're kind of sharing your expertise when you're on a panel with all of these people who are from different companies. So yeah, I do get that. And I also understand that some people may not feel like these opportunities exist at their current jobs, which is also why, again, in this age of COVID, we have to get very creative about how we showcase our expertise. Just like you said, showcase the expertise. And how do we do that? If you're still not sure what your expertise is, then that's a different conversation that we need to have. But it's important that you're positioning yourselves for opportunities, or even within your companies, because a lot of companies now, especially when COVID just started, they were doing reductions in force. So you have to show that you have multiple skill sets, right? Let me tell you, I could tell with my job. They hired me in 2017 for one thing and a hybrid role, and then my transition into this role. And in 2018, 2019, I take on a role I never ever knew. I'm familiar with it, but I take on the role. And so now I have this varied experience. And I was telling a former coworker, is like, I kind of like this generalist life because I'm not an expert in one particular area. I'm dabbling in a lot of things because I realize in this age, I need to find opportunities where I'm learning the different skills as I can, because one skill might get me in the door, but there's all these other backup skills in my pocket that's going to help me stay in that door, in that building. So it's how do we get past that? And I think beyond being an introvert, it's also culturally how we were brought up kind of impacts that, right?
Yeah.
This idea of holding our heads down and we're not comfortable reaching out. It's too vulnerable. It feel like, a big friend type thing.
Yeah.
It's not natural for a lot of us.
Yeah. And it's even worse when you're a woman, I gotta say, because I am not a psychologist. So me saying this doesn't come from, a place of 100% knowledge, but I can say that it comes from a place of experience working with other, women professionals, whether entrepreneurs or in a 9 to 5 as well, especially if they're Caribbean women. For some reason,
Yeah.
we were raised to, as you said, keep our heads down and not really talk up. You don't want to make too many waves because, you can either get in trouble, you could be fired. People can even hurt you because they can be jealous of you. Who gives a crap? I mean, like, I guess I'm just like at that phase right now. And it's a phase that I like to encourage other women to get to because let me tell you, you have one life to live. You have this knowledge, you have this wisdom, and your experiences are valuable. Otherwise, why would you have them? You can always teach somebody something. And something that I tell myself to get myself out of the way is, Gizelle, I ask myself the question, will people find value in what you're sharing? Okay, the answer is yes. Okay, so if you don't share it, won't you be a selfish beep for not doing it? I'm like, oh my God, yes, I would be. So let me not be that selfish person for not doing it. So that's something I tell myself. Maybe that's something that some of your listeners will find valuable. But I thought I'd share that.
Yeah. I know. I've heard that analogy before. Like, if what you have can help somebody else, why wouldn't you want to share it? And I know, like, those are the self-talk that we have to help us get through these moments where we're just second guessing ourselves and we're in our heads and we're wondering if this is going to be important. So I can relate to that. So before we go any further, let's just back up. So as an introverts, we draw energy internally. And building your brand as an introvert or an extrovert or wherever you are, or an ambivert, doesn't mean doing the most on social media. Doing the most, you don't have to do reels, you don't have to do videos, you don't have to do lives, you don't have to do all of those things all at one time either, right?
No.
You find the thing that you're most comfortable with and do that, right?
Exactly.
Again, we want to stretch ourselves sometimes. So even though I don't like doing video, whenever I have to do a video, somebody's holding me accountable. So I didn't just pick up one day and any video you see on Carry On Friends, it's not me saying, oh yeah, I'm going to do a video.
Yeah.
Somebody held me accountable. You said you needed to do this video. Okay. I'm holding you accountable. You better do this video by this, that, and do that. I'm like, okay. If you know that it's something you need to do, but you would talk yourself out of it, get some accountability. Do the self-talk that Gizelle talk about. Am I depriving somebody of this critical information? And if that not gonna work, because we already know we can't talk ourselves out of it, get somebody else to hold you accountable, right? That post on LinkedIn that could showcase your expertise, get somebody to hold you accountable to post it. Right? Because as much as we think we have self-discipline, we really don't, right? Yeah. And we need a community and support to help us, right? And so building your brand is important, like Gizelle has pointed out, for your professional career, for your survival, right? Forget professional career, your survival.
Exactly.
COVID don't tell us that your job, it's not a given.
No.
And you need to know what skills or what you have now that can help you pivot. There's a bunch of people who are unemployed, and the people who get the job the fastest are those who have a wide network, or they've been on LinkedIn or whatever, and people see they have receipts, they have social proof of what they know or what they're capable of doing. So if any of this is overwhelming you, I think one of the first thing is get somebody who that can keep you accountable. And if you want me to keep you accountable, send an email, hello@carryonfriends. Send a message through Instagram so I can keep you accountable. Tell me what it is that you would like to do. And I'll tell you, I want to see this LinkedIn post about X, Y, and Z. I'll do that, right? Even at my current job, people need to send emails and they're afraid to respond to the email to the boss. And they're like, can you read this email? I'll read it for you, but you better hit send in 5 minutes after I read this to you. Everyone goes through those moments, introvert or otherwise. All right. So I love talk about personal branding because I'm so self-aware that I'm an introvert and I'm always like wanting to learn about different things that I can just stretch and put
Exactly.
myself a little bit out there, not all the way out there, but just go beyond my comfort zone just a little bit
Mm-hmm.
until I get more comfortable, right? So with the elastic band, you keep,
Yeah.
stretching it until it's fully loosened up a little bit. So tell me something that someone could do today that is so easy that they could take towards building, developing, or creating, as you said, a more magnetic personal brand.
I want you right now to find your favorite podcast, one that aligns with your expertise and the knowledge and the wealth of wisdom that you have to share. I want you to reach out to them, and I want you to offer that to them. And one of the best ways to offer it to them. I don't know if it's like this with you, Carrie Ann, but with my podcast, when people send me like this, it's called a speaker one sheet.
You need a one sheet. And then you could go to CaribbeanPodcastDirectory.com, find all the Caribbean podcasts on there or your favorite podcast and see which one aligns.
Exactly. For me, it's always about what's the easiest way to get to yes. How can you
I
get
like that.
people to see your value? What's the easiest way to get to yes? Don't have them, okay, I want to be on your podcast. I want to be on your amazing platform. Okay, what value do you offer? Some of the ways that you can, you can break it down, obviously put a summary, of who you are, keep it short. Obviously it's one page for a reason. Having a testimonial of it, somebody who has worked with you, whether it be a client, whether it be a co-worker, if you've written for any publications, if you've blogged for anywhere, it's very easy to contribute blog posts to different platforms, have their logos on there. And even better, have topics. Let them know what topics you can speak about, because that way they can easily look at it and say, oh, okay, that topic can work with my show. I like that. I want this person on. Give them as much room, to understand who you are quickly so that it's easier for them to say yes. Now, I know you asked me for one thing, but
feel free. Because here's the other thing that I liked about what you said, right? You have to use wisdom too, right?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't pitch to go on Oprah Winfrey podcast. I know it's going to be a no, right? So pitch the low hanging fruit, right? Your pitch, maybe I can write an article for Oprah.com or something, like find if these platforms have blogs that are thriving, a lot of times they're looking for contributors, right?
Exactly.
And there's often a section where they're like, yeah, you could contribute to the blog. Here are some of the things. You can reach out and do that as well. I know it's the same thing for me. I've gotten people wanted to be on the podcast and it wasn't quite a fit for them to be a guest on the podcast.
Yeah.
But if you have an article, I'm happy for you to submit an article and I'll publish it on the website. So you have to think of the other ways to get to that one thing. You want to be a guest? Maybe you have to work yourself up, contribute, make sure you are engaging with them outside of this one ask. Nobody ask and because them say no, you disappear.
Exactly.
And if you're an introvert and you don't like the idea of rejection, you look at small ways to kind of work yourself up to that big ask, right?
Yeah, I know. But you know what? Sometimes rejection is totally fine,
Me know, but
totally fine.
me know, but you have to just kind of say it,
Yeah.
You either go, I remember growing up, I the same thing. I didn't want to ask my uncle for something because I was afraid he would say no. Him say, baby girl, you either go get a yes or a no.
Yeah.
You might get a maybe, but you still go come back to a yes or a no.
Yeah.
And the sooner you get comfortable with that, the sooner you can kind of move past this. And he was right. Am I always comfortable with the possibility of a no? But just like you have to have the self-talk, like, it's either a yes or a no, just do it.
Exactly.
And just get past it quicker.
Exactly.
So yes.
You have to get to a level where you're so, I guess, uncomfortable, as it were, of being stuck in the same place. My personal mantra is, Gizelle, God ain't going to take it to the next level unless you're prepared to go there. So how am I going to be prepared to go to that next level if I don't do the things I need to do to go to that other level? Me sitting down and being afraid because like, I love your show. I've spoken to you already on LinkedIn. I shouldn't be nervous, but as I was telling you before, I was nervous.
I get nervous all the time.
But you do it. And I'm happy to do it because I know that not only for me stepping to this other level, it's adding value and it's building relationships. And I just wanted to add on to what I was saying earlier with the one sheet. Let's say you don't want to do one sheet. Something that I did recently. I'm not a LinkedIn expert, but I thought I should share this. I had like over 3,000 connections on LinkedIn, right?
Ooh, I saw that. Yeah. Tell them what you did. Tell them what you did.
I spent around 2 to 3 days removing over 2,000. Now I'm down to like 490 something people. And the reason why I did that is because I wanted to build meaningful relationships with the people who are actually in my network. The whole connecting and say, hey, how you doing? So nice to connect. Hope that, we can talk more. And then you never talk. Like, then what's the point? It's called social networking for a reason. And on top of wanting to have a small list to build relationships with people who obviously I like and admire, I have found that the engagement for my content has increased because it's a smaller group of people. And because I'm constantly engaging with, on content for the people who I admire, I'm constantly popping up on their radar. So that's something, entrepreneur, professional, whatever space that you're in, that's something that you can do. Don't worry about the vanity metrics. Oh, people are going to think I don't know anybody because I've...
Actually, you're right. That's what I loved about your story, because I've been doing that a little bit more intentional. So like people reach out, hey, Carrie Ann, it seems like we have the same people in our network. I'd love to connect. Nope. And then if them say, hey, Carrie, me never give you permission to call me Carrie. So that's an instant no. That's an instant no. So the smaller the connections are on LinkedIn or any network, the more engagement. And that's why I'm very mindful, even on Carry On Friends, I don't really follow celebrities because their feed, their posting just clog up my feed and I can't see the actual audience who I'm following their feeds, because how much time a day a celebrity post? So Instagram prioritizes their post. And I'm just like, I can't do this. I need to see the people who I actually need to engage with. So I'm not worried about how many followers. I'm more concerned about who are the people who engage with me, like the show, and am I seeing their posts? And sometimes I already know I'm not seeing it.
Yeah.
I'm only seeing the ones who are like posting constantly. And so it's the low number should not discourage. It actually encourages. And I think more people are actually doing that. So I'm glad you did. Listen, I'm weeding out mine. I'm at like 7 or 8. Like I've been cutting them down left, right. But you see, because I don't have the 2 to 3 days to commit one time, just slowly just cut them down. And if I haven't connected with them or talked to them since I've been on LinkedIn since 2000X, forget it. Yeah. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. So I really love this conversation. Tell people how they could connect with you, what services you offer, all of that good stuff, because I know some people want one pager. They want to buy something. They want something that have a magnetic band. So tell them.
Okay, well, I'm going to keep it simple. You can reach out to me at GizelleRiley.com or drop me an email at hello@GizelleRiley.com. And it's GIZELLERILEY. You can reach.
All right. So for my American folks, it's GIZE.
Oh yeah.
RILEY. She said Z. I'm yeah. Yeah. But no, I love this. I love this. So we're going to have a debrief of the Introvert support group after the recording ends. But I'm so glad you came on the show. I'm just so glad we had this one of many conversation, because I think how I approach Carry On Friends, this is just like, this is a starting point. Just we've never really addressed introverts. We've never addressed this idea of you can't have a brand without being a celebrity, without being an influencer. And it's important, especially in COVID, to have a personal brand, but not talk about it in a way that feels out of reach.
Yeah.
for someone who's, I just have a job. I don't have any aspirations to none of this. I just need to know. And this will come in handy when I eventually have the person on the podcast to talk about career and job hunting. Because essentially they're going to say the same thing. It's who are you? How are you letting yourself be known in the space? Because now you're competing with so many other people for the same job. So I'm so glad that you're on the show. You came on the show to talk about this. And any last words before we wrap up?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I had a great time talking with you, Carrie Ann. You're amazing. And I just wanted to share, because when we're talking about personal branding, and I love stories, and I think that, you know, we hear a lot about storytelling right now, and it sounds like this big, convoluted buzzword kind of thing. Storytelling, how do I do it? And the way how I, interpret storytelling, even though, yes, there are frameworks and structures and all that, but I like to keep things simple, is to communicate who you are fearlessly. Communicate with fearless. I'm all about fearless self-expression. And in my book, Master Your Message Like a Boss, babe, my book, baby, I talk a lot about, personal branding and how to build your brand with stories, right? And in order to do that, you got to get your mind right first, because you can't be in the office, as I said, and people don't know who you are. And while you may not be on LinkedIn at the moment and be turning out content, your personal brand goes with you. And in order to do that, the best way is to find out your values, find out if in an ideal world, who would you like to serve? This one person. Because finding who this one person is Taylor. When you find out who this one person is, that's when you're able to determine, okay, this job will be a good fit for me, or this business opportunity will be a good fit for me, because Taylor, or whoever, you name your avatar as, this person is the person I resonate with. This is the person who lights me up, and this is the person who I want to help. So I talk about a lot of that, as well as clarity roadblocks in the book, and imposter syndrome. And I think that it is important, in order to build that personal brand, is to rewire those rotten narratives that you've told yourself over the years, and weave it into this person who you envision yourself being. Because, as I said, you can't go to the next level unless you're prepared to go there. And the only way you can get there is getting your mind right. So I just wanted to share some of that with you. And again, thank you so much. You're an amazing podcaster, and I love your energy. I love when I meet introverts with a lot of energy, because, as I said, you're dispelling the stigma that introverts are like in their hole, don't know how to talk to people. So I love that, and I appreciate you and what you're doing in this space. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on the show and just sharing your expertise. I love what you said. A lot of useful takeaways, everyone. So I'll make sure that all the links to Gizelle, her books, and everything is in the show notes. And also, make sure you let me know if you have questions. There's the link in the show notes to submit questions as well. So let me know if you have any questions. And until next time, walk good. The Carry On Friends podcast is produced by Breadfruit Media, and new episodes are available every other Tuesday morning. You can listen to the podcast on the website, carryonfriends.com, or you can listen on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, or wherever you like to listen to your podcast. The Carry On Friends podcast is produced by Breadfruit Media, and new episodes are available every other Tuesday morning. You can listen to the podcast on the website, carryonfriends.com, or you can listen on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, or wherever you like to listen to your podcast.